Welcome to Whole Lot of Wolves, episode 12 of season 5. I'm Joshua Buckley with my co-host Paul LePage.
Greetings.
Our producer in New York, Alex Patakis.
Hey, what's up, guys?
And on socials from Baltimore, it's Danny Paletti.
Good evening.
And joining us, some of us got to spend some time with him when Wolves were in the USA. From Boca Raton, it is Teddy Eley. How's it going, Teddy?
Hey, Josh. Yeah, going well. Yeah, it was great spending time with you and Alex during the summer. And, it's been a tough start to the season, but, onwards and upwards. So.
Is this your first time on after a non-loss?
It could certainly be.
I think it is.
We'll take
yay!
it.
Good scheduling, Paul. We got Teddy to have positive vibes. And
I did delay it a week though.
Oh yeah.
I delayed it a week,
good.
so just get on the draw instead of a loss. But.
Well, Wolves didn't win, but they didn't lose, and it felt like a win, Paul. 2-2 tie, late comeback against Brighton, and there's a lot to unpack. And we're gonna start off with Tommy fucking Doyle. He started in the lineup, and he made a difference, Paul.
He did, and it goes to show what a probably headache and what a challenge it is when it comes to those central midfield spots that effectively you run the risk of not starting your captain or dropping a duo of Brazilian centre midfield partners. It seems crazy that we just think back for a season or two when we had like Neves and Moutinho, and then our only other option was Dendoncker, and now it's got this challenge. But I think it's I'm just going to ride like the Tommy Doyle bandwagon and say that he should start every game just because he brings something different. But then that also goes into the dynamic of, well, if you're going to do that, is it 5 at the back? Is it 4 at the back? And he's a double pivot, more defensive. So it opens up a whole bunch of if, whats, and maybes when it comes to formation and fitting all these pieces in the team.
Teddy, were you surprised that the one who got dropped from the lineup in place of Doyle was Andre? And do you think it was the right decision?
Yeah, first half was pretty poor in all honesty. I didn't love the formation setup. They had looked like Joao Gomes was playing like a right wing almost in kind of a 5-2-3 formation. And I personally thought that didn't fit him at all. And, I would have preferred he drop back, and thought Lamina recently, obviously he's an on-field captain, but he's been a little on or off, and don't think Andre's put too many feet in wrong. So I was surprised and kind of wish Gomez maybe would have dropped further back. We would have put on a little more attacking player to start at least. So,
well, Danny, Doyle had the first chance in the contest and actually really blew it. Did you think that was going to come back to bite us?
100%. Yeah, I heard after the match that Tom King had once again been resuming his commentary duties alongside Mikey Burrows, and apparently says that in training he puts that in 99 times out of 100, which is what I was expecting. So yeah, I was definitely expecting him to slot that one away. Also, it was just a great chance. I was also worried there's going to get pulled back for some bullshit foul, but it was a great chance to create. He had a ton of space and a ton of time, and I guess sometimes that works against you.
Well, death, taxes, Danny Welbeck scoring. Alex Saul had a nice assist for him. That just came at the worst possible time right before the end of the first half.
Yeah, worst possible time and worst possible way to concede that goal for the discourse and this stupid argument that we're now going to have to continue to have week over week over which keeper is the right keeper to start. I don't know about you guys, but I was anxiously awaiting the lineup on Saturday morning, mostly just to see who was going to start in goal, because Gary O'Neill said during the week that it was obvious who they were going to proceed with. And I took that to mean that like Johnstone is their number one. So obviously good game for Saw against City aside, he'd get replaced, which I think would have just ruined my Saturday before a ball is even kicked. So I'm actually very happy that Saw was in goal, and then heartbroken that happened, because look, like, this is something that he does sometimes, and this is why they were looking for a replacement. But Johnstone did it a couple of weeks earlier as well. So really, if we're going to get mad at one and not the other for crappy distribution and terrible errors when they're trying to play out, I think the real answer is, if that's the way that we want to play, we just don't have a keeper capable of it, which is disappointing to still be in that scenario, having spent the money we spent in the summer on bringing in the guy we thought would be a replacement. So I'd keep rolling with Sa, but damn, that sucks. And Welbeck's scoring on everyone, so I guess I can't get that mad about it. He's maybe the most informed English striker right now. So who knows? Maybe Thomas Tuchel will throw everyone for a loop when the next international break comes.
Okay, just real quick, gonna go around. Saw versus Johnston. Saw had a great save, then had that blunder. So, Paul, real quick, who would you start still after the last few matches now, Johnston or Saw?
Saw.
Who's your number one? Saw? Danny?
I'd prefer Saw. I think Johnstone's our starting keeper.
Okay, Teddy?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as Dan. I think Johnston will start, but I think Saw I'd prefer.
Okay, and then Alex has made it clear. Okay, good deal. Well, there were changes at halftime. Saw was not involved, but boy, oh boy, it was. Lamina came out, and in came Forbes, and in came Sarabia, which was very interesting, and turned out to be a good move, Paul.
It did. I think whether it was last chance saloon or that one last throw the dice, I don't know what prompted it, but it was bold. It was ballsy. I think it was ballsy to the extent that you're effectively bringing your captain off. And again, could you imagine a season or two ago that happening to Neves, for example, in the middle of the park? So it was a significant step, but the impact that it made was like, we played better. It wasn't as if we were totally transformed, and it wasn't after we were forcing save after save. So it's better than the first half. Was it that transformational that you were waiting for him to score? Not so much, but I think it does just give you an idea that regardless of a 4 or a 5 at the back, you've just got to have that extra player in a forward position, or someone with an ounce of Sarabia that can help at least craft something. It seems that we're really missing that creativity at the minute.
Teddy, were you surprised that they moved to the back 4 at halftime, or was it, hey, O'Neal saying, if I'm going to get fired, I'm going to get fired my way?
Yeah, it almost seemed like they're doing like a Ten Hag, how he's been playing, just trying not to lose that first half. And, they almost got there too at the 0-0, and then obviously Sa had a kicking error. But yeah, to switch to the 4, I thought after the game too, Gary said that he wished he would have kind of stuck to his guts and played it with the 4, which almost made it seem like the outside noise from everyone was getting to him, which I found a little strange.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I thought the players responded well, having Forbes out on the left, kind of, definitely a lot more speed kind of and creativity out there than we had before. And Sarabia just did a great job dropping kind of in between the lines between Brighton's defenders and midfielders, and was able to create some good chances there. So yeah, I mean, to Paul's point, it wasn't like we were, the best team we've ever seen, but it was much improved second half compared to that first half.
Danny, we've talked about Lamina being the captain, kind of guaranteed his spot, but he came off at halftime. Do you think he's still guaranteed the spot?
I think until we see otherwise, I have to say yes. Probably he keeps his spot. Maybe not. I would be very impressed if he didn't keep his spot. Not necessarily because I think Lamina is a bad player; he's undeserving. But I do think that we have so many good midfielders. I think that there's room to mix and match them as the game requires. And also, we eventually need to settle down into what is our best 11. And sticking with basically the same midfield from last year, but with Andre jammed in, just doesn't feel like the right way forward. So maybe Lamino's part of that settled 11, but I'm not sold on it yet. And going back to the previous point about like switching things up at halftime, it's so odd. Like I like Gary O'Neill a lot. I hope that he turns it around. I hope he stays for at least this whole season, if not longer. But man, I just feel like he is creating so many weird little problems. I mean, the goalkeeper situation that we just talked about, where there's just this weird narrative about who's going to start. And then now this whole thing with the back five, where he sort of implies that like, oh, I never should have abandoned my principles. He conceded that goal on the back five, and then I changed things up at halftime to a back four, and look how it went. But it's just like, he might be right, but it's just such a weird narrative to have out there, where now like it's always been kind of bullshit to me for people to talk about like, oh, we're terrible in a back four and we're only good in a back five. But now you're just feeding into that narrative. It baffles me continuously.
Yeah, it was very, very interesting comments by him, and we'll get to that here in a little bit. But it looked like Wolves were really pushing, playing really well, and then gave up that second goal. Alex, I mean, that seemed like a typical Wolves letting the game get by, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. I mean, they were really good for most of the second half, and I thought, we're probably deserving of a result, but I'm not going to lie and say that I thought that at that point that anything could possibly happen, which is even, makes it even funnier that Gary O'Neill would say that comment. And I feel like this comment's just going to keep coming up because it is a hilarious thing to say in a game that you very easily, even with like a late goal, could have lost 3-1 if a 4-on-1 break went Brighton's way with Tommy Doyle. But the comment about how he should have played the back four the entire time, like, it still took a miracle at the end to not lose by multiple goals. Like, maybe we would have had a goal on the board before the second half, but we decided to come out the way we came out, and you couldn't keep a clean sheet in the first half. So, that second goal felt like a backbreaker. And at that point, I definitely thought that we would be sitting here doing this podcast today with an interim manager, or talking about, Steve Davis taking on training and who's going to be coming in later this week, but I'm kind of glad we're not, because there's another team that's looking for a manager now that any good coach is going to be linked to. So I'm happy we're not in the same boat as Man United at this point, so we can keep a somewhat stable ship for at least another week.
Although they are ahead of us in the standings, but well, then when we were ready to write them off, Paul, a little magic happened, and it all started off with on a set piece. Ooh, and Nate Norrie with the rebound. Who needs a set piece coach, right?
Well, it's who needs a set piece coach, or again have a creative player to put the ball in the danger zone where it needs to be placed. So that made a difference. And I think like Nuri now he's cropping up with these goals and showing that he's got an ability in and around the 6-yard box to put it away. So that was a positive. But you just always left that whenever one of those types of goals go in near garbage time, you think, well, they've been doing that all game. Like, why now? Why couldn't they have scored like 10 minutes earlier and at least got an equalizer? But it turned the pressure up, and that's what we needed.
And then, Teddy, came the craziness. Tommy Doyle takes on 4 Brighton attackers, somehow gets the ball. Beautiful, accurate pass. By the way, he had 14 of those in the match, which was the highest for the EPL this week.
A Hail Mary, you might say.
Yeah, a Hail Mary.
There
he goes. There he goes. Cunha gets the ball, looks, nobody's open, says, fuck it, I'm going to shoot it, and it goes in. Well, describe your emotions in that whole 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Yeah, I think it started off with Oh well, here comes another loss. As Alex alluded to before, Gary getting fired, getting ready for the interim manager, new manager to all of a sudden, only 2-1 won't be that bad. And I thought to myself, why did Brighton commit 4 players forward when they're leading by 1? It just didn't make any sense. I was like, wait, that means they probably only have 5 or 6 defenders back. And then, Doyle has a great, interception, great anticipation, bombs it up the field. And now there's like 7 Wolves players and like 5 Brighton. I'm like, well, wait a second. We might be going somewhere here. I honestly thought Cunha had picked the wrong option shooting. Looked like there were a couple runners to the side of him, but, deflection almost off the crossbar. And definitely a lot of joy where I was, and excited. Shows I guess the emotions that Wolves can bring you. I was much needed, especially for the bad start we've had to the season so far.
Teddy, if I was a Brighton fan, I feel like screwing up a 4-on-1 when you have a 1-goal lead is very similar to what our Chicago Bears did with the Commanders. Where you just look at the photo and you see 4 guys and go, Wolves tied the game 10 seconds after this. And it's just, it's mind-blowing.
Like literally 10 seconds.
Yeah. Danny, how did Doyle do that?
He says that he saw it all the way. Obviously, he knows that there's a bit of luck in it, but it was just so confusing. I mean, you saw that immediately afterwards, the Brighton player put his head in his hands before the pass had even gone off. He realized how much he'd fucked it up because Doyle wasn't pressing him. He can't, if he presses him, then that pass is so much simpler. And he's put himself in a good position, and the rest, I guess, is in the hands of God, I suppose.
I can't imagine what the Brighton players were feeling after that. Just unreal. Held on then. Got the 1 point. 100% more points than we had last week. Yay! It felt like a win, didn't it, Paul?
What's the jump in the league table as well? 5% increase in the standings.
We're moving up.
Keep on drinking the positive half of the cup, and we'll do all right. But for me, I'd flip from on the one hand at 2-0, thinking he's done, stick a fork in him, get rid of him before next weekend so we can have that new manager bounce, to at least having a little semblance of thinking, well, they are playing for him. And especially after last week as well, that, an early goal against City, heads could have dropped and we could have been on the end of a hiding. Like Saturday as well could have been a lot worse. So it kind of give me the inclination that there is something there. There's still something to clutch to, that he can potentially ride it out. And with these upcoming games, if he gets points on the board, then he can salvage something. But even taking that narrative away, you don't often go to Brighton. Well, we don't often go to Brighton and pick up points anyway at the best of times. So given the run that we're on, you're definitely taking a point away from home.
Yeah, and just to carry on with that, I mean, I know it gets lost in all the doom and gloom and all the games we've lost, but Brighton are a very good team. I know that you've sit there and lost most of your first 8 games and you think nothing but a win will do. But I think that if we were playing this exact game in match week 1 or 2, I think anybody would have said, I'd happily take a draw, even before we knew that we were going to be so depressed later on. So yeah, it's a good point. I know that context matters, but I still think it's a very good point.
I think Tommy Doyle would probably be a man of the match, would probably be consensus man of the match. But Paul, there were a couple other players that you thought were deserving of standouts.
Yeah, I think Semedo was unbelievable in the Minotoma seemed to have him on toast the past few times that we played. So for him to be effectively locked down, I thought was excellent. And he seems to be in a really good rich vein of form at the moment. And again, you're looking at that and thinking, well, is it because he's got a little more license playing in a 5? Has he got less responsibilities defensively? But either way, you take a performance like that out of Semedo because you know that he's got it in his locker. And just as a defensive unit, I think another unsung hero for me was Santi Bueno. It kind of went under the radar a little bit, but was composed. And it's tricky. Like, he's been with us over a season, yet we're not entirely sure of what his game is. So if he's going under the radar, is that a good thing that he's not being troubled so much and he's doing the dirty work that we don't really see? But then the flip side is we were 2-0 down with a few minutes to go. So were they actually that good as a defensive unit? I know we had Sar's blunder and everything, but can we really pin our hopes on that back line? You're hoping we can, but it's still not convincing.
Yeah, Santi Bueno, Teddy, it seemed like he was very out of favor after preseason as well. And now, if they do even go back to a back 4, I got to think it's him and Dawson starting, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, he is, a nationally capped center back for Uruguay who have had, historically some of the best defenders in the history. So obviously there was, always something about him, but I feel like he's one of those players that never does anything special. So, it doesn't have the pace of Mosquera, for example, or kind of, win all the headers like Dawson, but he just does everything above average, which, doesn't get recognized. But yeah, I thought he played some great balls out through the back, one-on-one defending. I remember one moment against Welbeck was excellent, and kind of, him and Semedo did a great job on that kind of right-hand side of the defense. So yeah, I think he definitely, especially compared to Todd, he definitely deserves a chance kind of in a back 4.
Yeah, as long as Santi doesn't sprain a butt cheek again, I think we're okay. Hey, Matt, how's it going? It is Matt Sampson.
What a transition there, guys.
Wolves play Crystal Palace on Saturday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern, 12:30 Central Time, before all the clock changing nonsense, too. And joining us, as always, from the Crystal Palace supporters group in Washington, D.C., it's our good friend Matt Sampson, who Alex and I got to meet in person when we were in Annapolis.
Great to put obviously got faces here, but yeah, great to get the actual in-person time with you guys. It was brilliant to see you.
Now, I want you to admit it. Wolves fans were a lot louder than Crystal Palace.
You showed out far more than we did, for sure.
That's okay. You guys got the win, so it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
Well, something else that you got that Wolves have not gotten yet is a win, and you guys pulled off a nice one against Tottenham.
Yeah.
So how does it feel?
I recommend. I was really hoping that you guys would get yours against Brighton. And well, I'm sure you would have loved to have something positive in the win column by now, considering how that one unfolded and it being an away match. I'd argue that you guys are entering this match with about as much momentum and positive vibes as Palace is. And it'll just be, I think really interesting to see how Saturday plays out. Between now and then, Palace have a Carabao Cup match at Aston Villa. Our manager, Oliver Glasner, really believes in going all in for cup matches. So he's, played his best 11 for long stretches in our previous cup ties to date this year. So we'll see how that impacts lineups and everything for Saturday. I'm also kind of curious, you're talking about support there a second ago, what kind of away support will be at Molyneux. You guys, I've seen a lot of posts on the official Palace Twitter saying, tickets are still available in the away section and offering up, free coach travel as well. So I'm not sure if the somewhat sour start to the season kind of discouraged folks from buying tickets and planning on a trip. When those tickets went on sale a month plus ago, and if Palace is obviously scrambling to fill our allocation right now. So interesting to note that as well come Saturday.
So Matt, lazy commentators during our fixtures, they'll blame our bad start on the sale of our 2 best players, being Max Kilman and Pedro Neto in the summer. Has that been a similar narrative at Palace with Elise and Joachim Anderson moving on?
Yeah, most definitely. I'd say far more with, Elise though. And, to your point, although it is kind of lazy commentary, there is more than a little merit to saying it. He's an amazing talent whose presence on the pitch had to be accounted for at all times. And I think all that attention that he drew, not only that JP Mateta and Iber Eze weren't the focal points of defenders, but also that neither of those two guys needed to have that I have to carry the team today sort of pressure thrust upon them. But the issues with Palace, to date, this, go beyond that. There's been like these little spells in every match that just kind of made you wonder if some of the players had just met for the first time in the tunnel prior to kickoff. You'd see two great touches between teammates, and then the third would just go to absolutely nobody. The midfield has really dealt with its share of injuries, and that's resulted in a real lack of like cohesion and fluidity in the middle of the pitch. And, I think that, one of the larger issues outside, if you're setting aside, the absence of Elise, is that it's kind of put Eze in a position where he's really trying to do too much at times. Elise and Eze had such like that, MJ and Pippen vibe where they kind of knew right where the other guy was going to be and could count on him to be there. And really until Sunday when he had a brilliant little flick to set up Mateta for a goal, Eze still seems to kind of be searching for that and kind of really trying to do everything himself in the meantime. And in the process of that, he's missed, I think I read a stat, it was 5 big chances this season that he had already missed, which was more than his entire total last year. He had another miss on Sunday too. So obviously the loss of Elise, big. No team is going to lose a talent like that without suffering some. But there are other root causes to the issues that Palace has been having so far this year.
So what did you think when Wolves purchased your lemon on the bench and Sam Johnston?
I really liked Johnson. I'll say that I was, kind of surprised that we went the Henderson route. Johnson was great in the run-in last year. Henderson had proven to be, injury plagued, but coming out of it now, knock furiously on wood with Henderson kind of being able to so far stay very healthy and has really, put in some great performances for us. So wish Sam well. He was fantastic in the run-in towards the end of last year, but it was obvious that Glasner made the choice that he wanted Henderson to be his number one, and that was enough for Sam, who wanted regular minutes somewhere.
Sounds like you guys like Johnston better than Wolves fans.
We may have. I mean, he was fantastic down the stretch last year, so he left on a high note with us for sure.
Yeah, the expectations when you're supposed to sell a keeper to Saudi might have something to do with that. When Johnstone is the return that you get, and then that sale never happened. But
Right.
I just want to say it was really great to meet you and bump into you in Annapolis.
Yeah, likewise.
And I think at that time, vibes were really high. Like Wolves were playing some great stuff, even though Palace beat us, and Palace obviously looked very, very good. And needless to say, I think the optimism for both clubs is like long gone. That has since faded.
Dial that back down to 11,
from the U.S. tour. But I wonder, that win obviously against Spurs does a lot for you guys. I think you're out of the drop zone now. But are you confident that, let's say, the next time we have you on, we wouldn't be having to talk about relegation for both clubs?
Yeah, I'm as guilty as anyone for kind of having outsized expectations for Palace heading into the season. Obviously, it was, the brilliant end to the 23-24. And I think even with Elise's departure, there was optimism in the signings and a belief that Glasner's system would make up for the loss of an amazing talent. But even before the first ball was kicked, Glasner really preached patience. 6 Palace players had international duty over the summer, missed a good amount of the preseason. A lot of the signings that we did bring in, as is often the case, were not brought in until right at the deadline. We were told, straight from the top from Glasner that it was going to take time to come together. We all just didn't listen particularly well. So I guess in the meantime, I've kind of been taking some solace in that the defeats, save for like a 2-0 loss to West Ham at home where we really got outplayed, have really been by like the finest of margins. There's a smallest mental lapse in defense that led to a 1-0 loss to Liverpool. as I mentioned before, Eze's had the kind of those four or five of those, oh God, he always buries that types of misses. And, the truth of it is that for whatever reason, Glasner's teams have always started slow. We all remember the brilliant end to last season with 19 points from 7 matches, but it's not like he arrived with any sort of new manager bump. We won only one of his first 6 matches. So all that said, I'm remaining optimistic, certainly not about making a run at Europe or anything like that, but rather that Palace can be comfortably back into, the 12-13 spot by, the festive fixtures and stay out of a regulation scrap in the second half of the season.
So on to Saturday, Matt, what do you think the anticipated lineup and shape that you'll be rolling out?
Yeah, I mean, there was talk only, a week ago before the win against Spurs that Palace really needed to get out of Glasner's preferred 3-4-2-1 and play, just a straight 4 across the back line. But Glasner stayed true to his philosophy on Sunday, and we saw that pay off. Tyrick Mitchell and Daniel Munoz out as the wing backs were pressing considerably more than they were over the first 2 months of the season. Munoz putting Tottenham's defense under pressure led directly to Palace's first goal and only goal in the 1-0 win. And I think some of the return to that form and kind of the more pressing and everything comes from Glasner finally having his preferred back 3 players. Trevor Chalobah, the loan from Chelsea, Max Lacroix, who came from Wolfsburg, and Mark Gay, who's been at Palace for a while. They're settled in and getting some continuity. Sunday was their 3rd straight start together, and Lacroix and Gay were both superb throughout. As for the midfield, I think right now it's a little bit in flux. We'll have Eze and Ismail Assar out wide, but the middle pair of Jefferson Lerma and Adam Wharton is definitely a question mark right now. Lerma's almost certain to miss the game. He limped off with a hamstring issue against Spurs. And Wharton is having his minutes managed due to a groin issue that's eventually going to need surgery. It's just really a matter of pain tolerance and how long he can go for. But we'll see if Cheick Doucouré, who's missed the last handful of matches but returned to training last week, is slotted back into the 11. And then up top all season, things have been somewhat upsettled. JP Mateta didn't start the season in the same goal-scoring form that he ended last year, although, to be fair, that would have been almost an impossible pace to maintain. And, Arsenal transfer, Eddie Nketiah still really hasn't, found his fit yet, it seems like. Glasner tried pairing him with Mateta a little bit up top there and gave them a couple games, together up there. Then Nketiah started by himself with Mateta on the bench. But, the flip back to Mateta on Sunday paid off with a goal, so I'll expect you'll see him leading the line again this weekend.
Awesome, Matt. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah,
I hope you guys stay on 1 win after this weekend.
Understood. No hard feelings.
No hard feelings at all.
Gotcha.
You're going to win some matches afterwards, just not on Saturday.
Right on. All right. Always great to see you, fellas. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, Matt.
Enjoy the day. See ya.
That was Matt Sampson with Washington's Crystal Palace Supporters Group. So, Alex, we have a no stupid question from Drew from Pittsburgh about Crystal Palace.
Funny, coming off of a win over a club that seems like they're going to be competing for Europe like Spurs, Drew poses this question and asks, is it better that Palace got their first win out of the way so that they won't feel as much pressure, or would you rather Wolves be facing a winless Palace team next week? So pressure on Wolves to end this skid, but for Palace, what do you think? Are they a bit more relaxed having gotten that one out of the way?
What do you think, Paul?
I think I'm glad in one respect that it just dims the relegation focus off it a tiny amount. If both were going into it undefeated without a win, it would really turn it up into like the opposite of El Clasico, like the El regulation or something. So I'm glad that isn't as prominent, but there's still an element of me that is like, why Palace? It's like anyone else. It's just it's one of those teams that we've seen that we've never got a good record against, and They outplayed us in that run-in last season, and I just wanted somewhat of an easier game, even though they've just won their first game of the season. So it's a real tricky one based on all of that.
Teddy, must win match for Wolves.
I mean, I guess the question was for Wolves, not for Gary O'Neill. So no, I mean, they're still, a quarter of the season through. Obviously, we haven't played against any of the bottom, 9 teams. So I think there's plenty of room for improvements and putting points on the board. But yeah, if I was Gary O'Neill, I would definitely be going out for a win. I guess I'm wondering, a question for you all. If he draws, do you think he gets a Southampton game? I mean,
yeah, if he gets a point, I think if he gets a point, he'll be fine.
Yeah.
Danny, what do you think? You seem to have thoughts on this must-win match.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's more of a must not lose. I know that's going to be disappointing to a lot of people, perhaps. I just think that's sort of like wishful thinking. I kind of agree that like if you draw against Palace, I think the argument to be made is that even a draw, if it's not a good game, the home crowd could really get toxic, because it's a game that everybody's kind of expecting to get something better out of. We've had games where we've played like decently against very good teams. And so we'd like to see that applied to a team that has not performed very well this season. So that's kind of the argument that like even a draw is not good enough. But I just think practically speaking, if we're talking about our expectations of like, will Gary O'Neill be in the dugout for Southampton? I just don't see Fosun sacking him based on a draw, unless again, it's like very weird circumstances that get us there.
Okay, Paul, what do you think the lineup's going to be?
Yeah, $10,000 million question. I think there's what I think I'd like the lineup to be and what it'll roll out. And I think I'm a little confused with both of those myself. So I think I'm erring on the side of that 4 at the back, but with Totti at left back and that license to then out Nuri to be further forward in that hybrid as well. So if we are defending, he can drop in and make it a 5, then I think there's some mileage with that. The thing for me is having an extra attacker on the pitch. And again, if that's in a 5 or obviously more in a 4, I think we will see more from this team with that player alongside either Larson and Cunha, or more of an attacking threat from out wide. If it is a back 5, back 3, and you've got those 3 forwards. So I'm kind of on the fence about both of those two. I probably am leaning on more of the side of playing that 4 at the back, but probably with stubbornness, I want the 2 midfielders in that pivot to be Andre to provide that defensive solidity, and Tommy Doyle to put those passes out and have some creativity.
Real quick, everybody, go into the back 4, Danny?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's going to be what Paul said.
Teddy?
Yeah, you got to keep it for God's sake. So.
Okay. And Alex?
I think I'd go 5 with 2 in midfield and drop one of Lamina or Andre, but have an attacker in their place.
Interesting. Okay. Well, guys, let's look at the standings here. Danny, never a doubt, right? 2-2.
Never in doubt.
2-2 draw. 2-2 draw.
Just as Danny, I saw it happening.
Yeah. Danny is running away with it. He has 12 points already. Bravo, sir. You're doing well. I'd probably feel a little bit better if you were picking Wolves to win these matches than they were. Then we'd really feel good. But no. So he's at first. Alex, you're sitting on 7 points in second place. Teddy, you're going to man the guest spot today. There have 3 points. I have 2 points. And Paul is still in last. That's okay, though. Now's the time. So, Teddy, what is your prediction for this week?
Yeah, I guess I think the reason we're on 2 points here, 3 points, because we're always optimistic, but I'll keep it going and say 2-1 Wolves.
2-1 Wolves. Okay, Danny.
Well, you asked for it. I'm going to say 2-0. We're going to get a clean sheet.
2-0 Wolves. Okay. Alex?
I'm going to say 1-1. And none of the narratives change.
Oh, yeah. I have a little caveat. There's
Uh-huh.
still narrative attached to mine because Johnstone comes back in and he keeps the clean sheet.
Oh, no.
So then we get to spend the next week talking about whether he keeps his place.
Oh, man.
Paul?
I'm going for a 2-2 heartbreak in that it's very similar situation to Saturday, but the roles reversed. We'll be 2-1 up, squeaky bum, thinking it's there, and we somehow let it slip.
Yeah, I think Paul might be right on this one, actually. 2-2. Oh, I don't want to do it, though. I'm going to say 2-1, but I have a feeling Paul's going to be right. I'm going to say 2-1 Wolves. I am not confident in the clean sheet, but here's what it is.
No Stupid Questions is presented by Esfuerzo Wines. Located just north of Santa Barbara, California, Esfuerzo Wines showcases passion and 3 generations of winemaking in every bottle. So whether you're celebrating a Wolves victory or winding down after a day at work, let Esfuerzo Wines transport you to the heart of California's wine country with every sip. For a limited time, head to esfuerzowines.com and use the promo code WOLVES for a 15% discount on your wine purchases. This message is intended for those of legal drinking age. Do not drink and drive. Excessive alcohol consumption may be harmful to your health. If you or someone you know is struggling with alcohol abuse, please seek help. Esfuerzo Wines reminds you to enjoy their products responsibly and in moderation.
No Stupid Questions when the listeners have a chance to chime in and ask anything that relates to our lovely 19th placed Wolverhampton Wanderers, and you could do so a number of different ways. You could do so by reaching out to us on X at WLWpod is the show's handle, where Danny is monitoring our social media accounts, and you can email us hello at wholelotofwolves.com. You can get us there as well. So let's kick off this segment with Chase Branch. As we sit here on October 28th, just as we record just a couple of days from Halloween, he says, "It's Halloween in the spirit. The whole team takes a trip to a haunted house. Who's too chicken to go through with it? And who spends the most? And which players spend the most time laughing at them?" Josh, who's not going in? Who's waiting outside?
I got an upset pick for this.
All
I
right.
think Jose Sa is the one that is scared to go in. I think
Really?
he's a little eclectic, and
I
I
feel
think
like
he's
Jose
like,
Sa's
no.
Yeah,
I
I was
wanna
just saying he's
go.
participating in it. He's like he's masked up and jumping out. Maybe not. That would be
Yeah.
that's a big upset pick.
Yeah, I think it is, and I feel good about it. I feel good that it would be Saw. And then I think Dawson is the one sitting there giving him crap about it because Dawson's got the kids. He's making fun of him like, my kids aren't even scared of this. What's your problem? And so I think Huang too. I think Saw and Huang are staying in the back, eating some Korean food while the others go through the
Some
house.
choco pies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to keep up the goalkeeper theme and say that it's actually Sam Johnson because he'll go in costume dressed as Dracula. And as you know, Dracula's scared of crosses.
Wow.
I wish I had a drum, but like sounder.
Paul saw that question come across on Twitter and spent the rest of the day workshopping.
Flip
that
it,
one.
Daddy. Flip it.
I think one of the Brazilians is probably too scared to go in. And my money's on Cunha. I think that there's something about Cunha. He's so like jumpy, you know. I feel like especially if it's like a kind of jump scare haunted house, he's not going to do well.
Yeah, I can
And
also
probably
see
one
him,
of the
like,
other Brazilians is giving him shit about it.
Yeah, 100%.
Probably Pedro Lima would be my guess, is giving
Yeah.
him crap about it.
I would fear an injury for Cunha in that haunted house. Like I get like one startle and he's on the ground. I'm like, come on, is he really hurt? Is he not? I ask myself that question every single Saturday. Like, is he just being Brazilian or is he hurt? So yeah, that's a good nomination.
Benny?
Yeah, I feel like Joao Gomez would love it. He's always kind of going around, show a lot of motion on the pitch. I feel like he'd kind of love getting scared and stuff. But in terms of who would be scared, I feel like Bellegarde might be. He seems like too nice of a guy. So I could just see him kind of sitting it out on the sidelines. And I did have I was kind of scared myself. I was thinking, coming out from. One of them would be Lopetegui, just kind of screaming at you with his head, the ghost of Lopetegui. I'm like, oh,
man. Todd, Minnesota, shout out as he's watching, saying that Forbes would be too scared. Tommy Doyle would be completely unfazed. We're all on the Doyle train. The bravery displayed in that 4-on-1 break is enough. Tom King seems like someone who would be very brave in there, I would think, right?
I mean, especially if there's swans in there.
Yeah, he's already faced down a swan.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, the same courage he channeled when going to rescue the dog in the pond, and he'll get through there no problem. Okay, let's go to Jeffrey's question. He asks via X. Well, first he states he really likes Strand Larson, but then he asks, is there concern over his speed? Now, this is another one of these narratives that probably didn't need to exist if Gary O'Neill didn't give so much attention and give like an exact time of the game that Larson just absolutely has nothing left, 67 minutes. But over his speed, not fitness, but speed. What do you think, Paul?
I was given this a little thought when it came through and thinking about it, and that the speed's not something I've really focused on. Whereas in my comparisons, I've been kind of looking at him and thinking, well, he's not quite like Raul when it comes to speed and quickness of feet and being able to move forward with the ball, especially close control. But nor is he that really dominant target man type striker either. He's like a combination of the two, and like it sounds bad. It sounds that I don't rate him, but like a downgrade on Raul's attributes, that he's not quite there. But then I just think that like his goal scoring record and just being able to put him in the positions where he can do most damage, and that's what I want to be seeing more of. It's like the goal against Man City, or even the contributions that he's made in terms of assists and just being in the right place at the right time to force errors and stuff. And I think it's a little unfair that, again, like a narrative around him, and I would think you'd probably be looking at a totally different player in last season's team if he was that central figure and he had Neto on one side and Cunha on the other. He could be comfortably close to double digits by now. He feels like he's got that knack of goals in him. So I just want him to be given those opportunities more, have that extra player up alongside him. I think we'll reap the benefits.
Danny?
Yeah, I was just thinking as you were saying that, part of the, function of that could just be that, we've played all these top teams where we've mostly had to score goals on the counter. And Todd wants Paul in instead of Gary. So we'll send that email to Matt Hobbs right after the show. But, a lot of our chances have had to come from fast breaks, and that's probably not, we're so used to that, especially, so many of our goals in the last few seasons have been, transitional goals. And not that I think, Southampton will come in and totally sit back against us, but it'll be interesting to see against Palace and especially Southampton, if we have more time sort of in their third, he might, get to play a different way, and maybe a way that suits him a bit more.
How long do you think Paul would be manager before Andrew Smith was calling for him to be fired?
The first
give
goal
it-
conceded.
Yeah, first go and see. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Get out of here.
Oh man, that's good stuff. All right, let's Todd DeWitt. This one via X. Has Paul ordered his kit with Tommy fucking Doyle on the back yet? That's a lot of letters, right? Don't you have a very strict rule? Can Tommy get you to break that rule?
I've got there's a lot of caveats to this. A, it's got to be discounted kit. B, it's got to be on free overseas shipping. And yeah, that is way too many letters for my name and number on the back. So
What about just TFD?
Yes.
TFD.
TFD.
that could work. That could work. And the number, and then everyone would know what it meant. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll pass the hat around and see if we can fund a kit for you that says TFD on the back.
Just wait until March, and then I'm sure it'll be like really cheap. Really
Yeah,
cheap.
honestly, that's probably true. What if TFD doesn't start on Saturday? Like, I'm playing out every scenario in my head. Like, there is a scenario where we all want Gary O'Neill gone by Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Like, and it's not that far fetched. Like, oh God, he better play. All right, let's wrap No Stupid Questions with a question from our own Joshua Buckley. Josh, explain the situation that you're currently dealing with right now.
Okay, so look, after Brighton slotted that second goal, I decided it was time to write a review on our favorite fiery wall of protection candle. This is what I turned into Amazon. I gave it 1 star. And the title was The Fiery Wall of Protection is Ice Cold. I said, I bought this candle to turn around the defensive woes of the Wolverhampton Wanderers this season. Myself and 3 others even recited the spell included with the candle. There was no improvement. A last-minute goal by Man City led to a loss. The next week, Wolves actually tied, but only after giving up 2 ghastly goals to Brighton. If you are hoping this candle will help your favorite team's defense, look for another candle. Also, there wasn't any type of nice scent with the candle. During this show, I just got the email that it was rejected, and Amazon said it didn't meet their community guidelines.
Interesting.
Based on what I just said, is that fair or not?
That's bogus, man.
I
I mean, no one's
I didn't
asking,
say a
like, is it a
bad word at
candle?
all.
You know, like
Yeah.
it made promises to you and to us, and by extension, all of our listeners.
I don't know what I did wrong that was in there. I even put like a picture of me with the
I
candle.
love that.
You should have attached a like screenshot of the score lines from the last 2 games.
Maybe I'll add that to there. I thought it was fine. I don't know whoever at Amazon, I demand to hear their explanation on how this violates their community guidelines.
Yeah, I think it's BS. And I always think it's a good sign when businesses reply to negative reviews and acknowledge them. Love to see this person, presumably in Coventry, reply with a screenshot of the 4 Brighton players and Tommy Doyle right there and be like, what the hell else could you want this candle to do for you, man?
And that would be
you saved a
acceptable.
goal with 4 on fucking 1. Like, give me a break.
Maybe that's why. Maybe that violated the community standards.
Maybe that was the beginning of it, because that's the only way to explain how Doyle came away with an assist in that situation where it would have been so easy to allow a goal. And it was that there was some on his side.
I feel like the candle is very spotty compared to the lemon and salt bath.
Yeah.
The lemon and salt was a little more, prominent.
I don't know.
Teddy,
I
what should I do?
again.
Well, how do I change it?
I think it was at the end when you also said the scent wasn't very good. As long as you get rid of that, keep everything else.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
that'd be good.
I'll try that.
Yeah,
I'll try
they'll be
that.
like, yes, wolves are shit. But
Yeah.
don't say our candle Smells.
Yeah, just say it smelled good at the
Yeah, I mean, come on, look, folks. It is a fiery wall of protection. I said it didn't protect, and they're going to reject that review. It's nonsense.
They got to accept the review. I mean, first of all, this could be user error. For all we know, we did it wrong, and I would love to be corrected. If
Yeah.
the maker could even maybe come on our show and tell us exactly how to do the incantation so that this would work. Be happy to put a 5-star review.
Maybe I'll add that on there. That's a good one. If this person would come on the podcast and teach us.
Or we need to all buy them. Or are you lighting it during the match? I think that's, if you hadn't done that, please light it at kickoff if you're home, if you're not going to a meetup. And then let's see how that goes.
Okay. We'll do it.
These clean sheets are going to start getting expensive if we need to light a candle every game.
Yeah, this candle was, for the record, this candle was like $16. And it doesn't even
burning through that wax. It's worth it. It's worth it.
And if it gets down, I'm going to have to take the paper part off of it.
Yeah.
So,
we'll make our money back betting on Wolves to keep a clean sheet. There we go. All about breaking even, baby. Thanks to everybody who chimed in with your questions, and thanks to our friends at Esfuerzo Wines for bringing you no stupid questions. Head to esfuerzowines.com. Use the promo code Wolves at checkout. Get 15% off of your order.
Teddy, how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can reach me at Teddy Eley on Twitter, or X, formerly known as Twitter, I guess, and Instagram as well. And then I try to make it to the Lion and Eagle Pub in Boca Raton, kind of a couple times a month, so you can find me there as well.
And that wraps this week's episode. Thanks to Alex producing, Danny on the socials, and our listeners and our watchers on YouTube. Thank you, because if you weren't involved, this wouldn't be a thing. So if you're new to the YouTube space, please head on over and subscribe to our channel. That would be much appreciated. We are going to be back doing this very same thing this time next week. We'll find out what happens against Palace, if the candle works for the 90 minutes, and then preview potentially the other 6-pointer, which will be Southampton coming to Molineux. So with it being Halloween on Thursday, if you have trick or treaters at the door, if they say trick or treat, just tell them, up the mighty Wolves.